Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. It's fantastic to have all of you with us. Myself and Pan are very excited to be able to present this to you guys. We thought it's a very timely topic. There's a lot of discussions going on about permanent residency this year, particularly last year after there was a massive migration year where lots of people got PR. Lots of us expected it would be the same this year, but unfortunately, the government decided to change how they were going to invite people. And then I was talking to Pan about how we as migrants are struggling to break into the white collar jobs in Australia and get really those occupations where we don't feel underemployed or where we don't feel like, we can really break that barrier and get the jobs that we trained for rather than just the jobs that are available. We all know there's a lot of part-time jobs in Australia or lots of jobs that we do that we are overqualified for. So then myself and Pan thought, what better way to do than to combine the two of us and see what we can do for all of you. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. And we hope to bring you a fantastic webinar today. Quick introduction to the two of us. My name is Keith James. I am a solicitor at MJ Legal, which is a law firm based in Box Hill, Melbourne. We also have an office in Colombo. I primarily practice in immigration law. I do all sorts of visa applications, from consulting clients all the way to helping them get PR, or if unfortunately a visa is rejected, I can help you with taking your case to the tribunal or the federal court as well. I do lots of employer-sponsored visas as well as skilled visas. So I'm here to take you through alternatives to permanent residency, given the government's current migration outlook. I'm joined by my friend, Pan. Pan, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Keith, for that exciting introduction. I'm excited to be here in this webinar, sharing all these strategies, especially with you migrants and international students who are looking to find your first job, but also to understand what kind of ways that you can explore your PR, especially with the employee sponsorship pathways. So just to give a quick introduction about me, so I'm Pan, and I'm the founder of Elevar Career Coaching. We are based in Melbourne, Australia. The services, like what I do normally, is really helping out international students and migrants on their job search, finding relevant job opportunities in their fields, and then also using advanced tactics such as LinkedIn to find sponsorships, job opportunities, and also helping them with their career in terms of converting more job offers through interview coaching, whether it's resume writing, LinkedIn optimization, and then one-on-one career services. So that's what I do, and I'm excited to share quite a handful of LinkedIn strategies today, especially for you guys to understand where you can leverage it to get job offers and in using employer sponsorship pathways. So that's a bit about me, and I'm a bit what's to come through on this webinar. I'll hand it over back to Keith.
Fantastic summary, Pan. I myself am very excited to hear what you have to say. I've been using LinkedIn for a while, but I'm sure I'm going to learn quite a bit from you today. So very excited about that. So ladies and gentlemen, what will we cover today? What do we hope to bring for all of you on this matter? So we hope to discuss pathways to permanent residency, all the various ways of permanent residency pathways available in Australia. We hope to talk to you about jobs, specifically jobs in regional Australia, as well as how jobs can help you get permanent residency in Australia if the skill migration pathway doesn't work. We'll also talk about skill assessments and how that's like a vital component in any type of permanent residency applications in Australia in the skilled categories. After that, as Pan said, he's going to give you some fantastic insights and tips into LinkedIn and building your digital resume, and how LinkedIn can be more than just your digital resume. He'll give you some insider tips and tricks to decide which employers might want to sponsor you versus which employers are just willing to give you a job because, primarily employers just want an employee. But obviously, there are some employers who go the extra mile. And how do we find them? That's something that Pan's going to talk about. And lastly, for all of you, because you've taken the time out to come and listen to us today, we've got some exciting exclusive offers that we're going to be giving just the members of this webinar to help you guys achieve your dreams in Australia. So let's get on with it. Let's see what we have to talk about today. So the first thing that we need to talk about is migration planning levels. So as most of you might know, the Australian government invites permanent residents to apply for migration from the 1st of July of a particular year to the 30th of June. It's not 1st of January to 31st of December. That is not the migration calendar year. The migration calendar year follows the financial year in Australia. Every year around May, the government will say how many people they hope to invite for permanent residency in a given year. So if you look at this bar chart that we've prepared, last financial year, you can see there was almost 30,000 visas given in the state-sponsored permanent residency category. Don't worry, I'll get to that in a bit. In the state-sponsored regional employer category, they gave a little more than 30,000 visas. And the subclass 189, which is the federal government's permanent residency program, they gave about 30,000 visas. So last year, we saw roughly 100,000 visas given to all forms of skilled migrants. And then separately, they gave about 35,000 visas to employers or employee-sponsored visa categories as well. In comparison, this year, they've really cut the program and really brought it to its needs. So if you look at the yellow lines in our bar chart, you'll see for the subclass 190 program, there's only 10,000 applicants. For the subclass 491 program, there's less than that, maybe about 6,000 visas available. And then for the 189, still the government has not had any invitation rounds. So we don't really know how much they're going to give, but they have set aside 30,000 visas, but we're not sure if they'll give all 30,000 visas either. And then when it comes to the employer sponsored, this year as well, they have about 35 to 37,000 visas on offer. So the first thing that you must do as a prospective migrant is to follow the data. See what the government is doing. How many visas are they giving? How many migrants do they want to allow to permanently reside in Australia? And we've helpfully done that for you today. Now, if you look at the pathways to PR, so once we saw all those numbers, let's try to distill and see what those numbers actually mean. So those numbers are reflective of the amount of spots available for you to get permanent residency in Australia. Those spots are distributed across a number of visa subclasses. So if many of you have applied for visas to Australia before, or if you're already on a visa, you will know that your visa has a 3-digit number. If you're a student, it will be subclass 500. If you're on a TR, it will be subclass 485. If you came here as a visitor previously, it will be a subclass 600. So those are all called temporary residency visas in Australia. Let's now look at what visas are permanent residency visas. So on the skilled migration path, we have 3 visa categories: the subclass 189, 190, and 491. Remember, skilled migration means you have an occupation that is on the Australian skilled occupation list, and you have told the government you are interested in getting permanent residency, and they have invited you to apply for permanent residency. So that will typically be, the invitation you will receive will be under one of these 3 visas. You can do this without the need of an employer to sponsor you. On the other hand, if you are unable to get invited to apply for skilled migration, you can apply for employer-sponsored visas, which is the subclass 482, 186, and 494. These visas are going to be the focus of today's presentation, and these visas don't require an invitation. So that means we don't have to wait till the government invites us or say, hey guys, we're happy with your expression of interest. We want you to apply for PR. We don't have to do that. The employer-sponsored pathways, if we are eligible and there is an employer that is willing to sponsor us, we can directly go and make that application. And that is super useful, particularly for applicants who are overseas, who want to come to Australia really quickly, because these visas are processed in as little as 2 to 3 months. And it's also super useful for those applicants who are already in Australia, who are on their TRs, and their TRs are about to expire. And TR is the subclass 485. For those of you who didn't know that. So if your visa is about to expire and you have an employer who's willing to sponsor you, you don't need to wait for an invitation from the government. Just negotiate with your employer and directly apply for that visa. Let's talk about how you can be eligible to apply for that visa and how we can go about that. So as I said, there are 3 different employer-sponsored visas available, right? The 482, the 494, and the 186. What are the differences? And they're very, very different from each other. Let's start with the subclass 482. The subclass 482 is an employer-sponsored work visa. It's not a permanent residency visa. You can get this visa for anywhere between 2 to 4 years. And typically you need at least 2 years of work experience and an occupation on the Australian skilled occupation list. The subclass 494 is different to the 482 because it's an employer-sponsored permanent residency, only available to employers who are based in regional parts of Australia. Regional parts of Australia is anywhere that's out of Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane's metropolitan postcodes. So if you are working for an employer who's outside these postcodes, or if you are applying for a job with an employer that is outside these postcodes and you have an occupation on the skilled occupation list, all you need is 3 years of work experience post-qualification, and an employer can sponsor you for permanent residency. Subclass 186, on the other hand, is also an employer-sponsored permanent residency. It has 2 pathways. One is called the direct entry pathway that can be used by applicants who have at least 3 years of post-qualification work experience. And the other is the temporary residency transition scheme, which is used by employees who are already on a 482 and have worked for one single employer for 3 years and is now looking to apply for their permanent residency. They can go through the subclass 186 path. The crucial difference between these 2 types of visas is that in the subclass 482, that's the employer-sponsored work visa, your 2 years of work experience requirement can be obtained at any time. Either before you started studying for an occupation on the skilled occupation list, while you were studying, or after you studied. Whereas for the 186 and the 494, your work experience of 3 years must be after you've obtained the qualification. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're an engineer, you've done civil engineering. If you've worked as a civil engineer for 2 years full-time while you were studying your civil engineering degree, after you graduate, if an employer wants to sponsor you, you could directly apply. But if you wanted to apply for the subclass 186 visa, that's the employer-sponsored permanent residency, your 3 years of work experience must have been obtained after you finished your education as an engineer. So I hope that helped. So why do we believe that employer-sponsored work visas are definitely going to be the highlight of the migration program this year? The reason we believe that is because there is priority processing for employer-sponsored visas. So as I said at the start, you can get it in as little as 2 months, whereas skilled migration visas are taking 12 plus months sometimes to process. There's been a substantial reduction in the general skill migration program this year. So it's very competitive. States like Queensland have only 900 spots for the 190 program. So it's very hard to get those visas. And the third one is the current policy favors, the government is favoring sponsoring individuals where the employers have already hired them and they're already working in their nominated occupations, or there's an employer saying, we need this skill, we can't find this skill, so we're bringing that employee from overseas. So current policy favors employer-sponsored visas as well. And lastly, you have more control because you don't need to wait to be invited. You can directly apply for permanent residency. So what are the eligibility requirements? Let's start with the 482. As I said, you must have an occupation on the skilled occupation list. What does this mean? Everyone keeps asking. What it basically means is the Australian government maintains a massive list called the skilled occupation list, where they list every single occupation that is currently in shortage in Australia. And this goes into hundreds of occupations, right? So firstly, you must identify whether you have an occupation on that list. Are you a chef? Are you a mechanic? Are you an engineer? Are you a doctor? You must first identify if you have an occupation. And secondly, you must understand whether you have the qualifications and skills required for that occupation. The second thing is you must have at least 2 years of work experience that's full-time. Full-time work experience for the skilled migration visa is considered as 20 hours per week, whereas full-time work experience for the employer-sponsored visa pathways is 38 hours a week. So if you only work 20 hours a week for 12 months, that's considered 6 months full-time employment. Please ensure that when you're doing the calculations, you get it right, or your visa will be rejected. The next thing that you need to understand is you need at least 5.0 in each band of IELTS, which is less than the 6.0 requirement in the general skill migration pathway. And the last is your employer must offer you a salary that is at least at the level of the temporary skill migration income threshold. That threshold changes occasionally. So recently it changed. It's 70,000 plus superannuation at the moment. So if your employer is not willing to pay you that much money, you will not have the ability to be sponsored for this visa. The last thing to remember is if your occupation is on the short-term list, you currently will get only 2 years visa. Whereas if it's on the medium to long-term list on the skilled occupation list, you can get 4 years. And if it's on the labor agreement, you can get a further 4 years. Now, the problem with the 482 is if your occupation is on the short-term list, as the law stands today, they've told us they're going to change it. But as the law stands today, there is no pathway to permanent residency from the 482 visa. So if you are on the 482 visa, let's say, for example, you're a community worker or a hairdresser, which is an occupation on the short-term list, you will now not be eligible to actually apply for PR under the 482 pathway. However, an option that this alternative visa that is available will be a subclass 494, which is an employer-sponsored regional PR pathway. This requires you to have a skill assessment. So once again, we are referring to that skilled occupation list. You must identify your occupation. You must do a skill assessment. It's not mandatory for the 482, but it is mandatory for the 494 and the 186. You must also have 3 years of full-time post-qualification work experience, and your employer must be outside Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane. In this one also, you must be paid at least $70,000 per year. The subclass 186 is one of the best visas around. It's an employer-sponsored PR. The requirements are quite similar to the 494. However, you do not need to be employed by an employer that is in a regional area. As I said earlier, in this stream, you can go either under the direct entry stream or the transition stream. Direct entry stream is available for those individuals who are who have 3 years of post-qualification work experience, have recently got a job. You can directly apply. If, however, you're already on a 482 and you worked for the same employer for the last 3 years, you can apply for a 186. Remember, if you changed employers while you're on a 482, you cannot then apply for the 186 transition stream. It'll have to be a direct entry stream. So another question that I get asked quite often is, Keith, I have an employer, I'm working for him, I'm working as a software engineer for them. How do I convince them to get to sponsor me? That's something that clients will often ask us in consultations. Well, the best way to convince an employee is by demonstrating your work ethic and showing that you're a fantastic asset to the company. But there are some other like visa benefits that you can outline for them as well. The first thing is the employer is guaranteed that they get an employee with at least 2 years of work experience, which is very important. The second thing is the employer gets the ability to have you exclusively for their employment use for the duration of your visa. So if you get a 2-year visa or a 4-year work visa, you can unfortunately only work for one employer, the person who sponsors you. You can't do a part-time job. You can't go and open a business or do a cash-in-hand job. Cash-in-hand you probably can, but you can't do a cleaning job or any other type of part-time jobs are not available for you. So you can tell the employer, if you sponsor me, I will definitely give my 100% attention to you because I legally cannot work anywhere else. And I also will have to work for you for the duration of your visa, which means for 4 years, if they're sponsoring for 4 years, they're virtually guaranteed to have an employee who will stay with them for 4 years. And companies really value long-term employees because they're a big asset for the company. So that's how I would recommend you approach convincing your employer, where in addition to showing that you're a fantastic employee, you can also show them that there's substantial visa benefits for them to sponsoring you. So how do we go about getting an employer-sponsored visa? What's the process? The first process, as I said, is to identify whether we have an occupation on the skilled occupation list. Second thing to do is to ensure that we have all of the experiences and qualifications necessary to meet the requirements of those of the occupation on that list. Then we need to ensure that we have 2 years of full-time work experience. Carefully calculate that. Ensure that you work for at least 38 hours a week if you're counting it as a full-time work week. Otherwise, if it's under 38 hours, count it as a part-time work week and add it. As I said, 12 months of part-time work equals 6 months of full-time work. Third is to negotiate with an employer for them to sponsor you. So highlight to them that they will get a stable employee for the duration of your visa, which could be as long as 4 years. If it's a 482 and if it's a 186, after you get the visa, you must work for that employer for at least 2 years post grant of the visa. After that, if the employer is happy to sponsor you, that's when the real work starts. So the first step is the employer must become a standard business sponsor. So if you're working for an employer that has not sponsored anyone before, it's a good idea for you to tell your lawyer or your migration agent that, the employer has not sponsored anyone before. Can you have a chat with them? So then we can talk to them about the importance of they becoming a standard business sponsor. Second thing is they must do a labor market test. That is where they must advertise the position for 4 weeks and prove to the department that there is no other employee from an Australian background or somebody with an Australian permanent residency or citizenship. There is no one equally qualified to actually do this job. That is why they need to hire you, the skilled migrant labor. So you need to run a labor market test. And once that test is done, you need to compile a report and you need to lodge the nomination. The last step is you can either lodge the visa application simultaneously with the nomination, or you can lodge the visa application after the nomination is approved. Here's the benefit. In addition to applying by yourself, you can also ensure that your spouse or any children that you have are part of the application. They'll get full-time work rights and full-time study rights. So that's also a really big benefit of being on an employer-sponsored visa. So that's all the ways in which you can go about getting an employer-sponsored visa. Before I hand over to Pan, I'm really quickly going to run through the skilled migration visas available for those of you who don't have jobs yet, or if you would like to try to get PR by yourself without relying on an employer. This would be the pathways: the 189, the 190, and the 491. The 189 and the 190 visas are direct entry PR visas. That means if you're given those visas, you are an Australian permanent resident. The 491 visa is not available in Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane. It's a regional state-sponsored visa. You'll get a visa up to 5 years, and you must continue to live and work in a regional area for 3 years before you can then apply for PR. What is important to note is you must have an occupation on that skilled occupation list for each of these visas before you can make an application. So you must identify what your occupation is, and then you must do a skill assessment, which is basically you making an application to a government nominated body, telling them that you have identified this particular occupation as being the occupation that you think is most suitable for you. After that, you must demonstrate by looking at their requirements, their policy requirements. Each skill assessing body has their own requirements. For example, the Australian Computer Society requires you to have at least a bachelor's level or higher in IT education and at least 1 year of work experience if you did your education in Australia. If you did your education overseas, then they're happy for you to have, then they require you to have at least 2 years of work experience before they will certify you as having a skill assessment to that standards of an Australian employee. So if you want to apply for skill migration, step 1 is to get a skill assessment. And the way in which you get a skill assessment is by looking up that skilled occupation list, seeing what your occupation is, and then working backwards and seeing whether you meet the educational and or work experience requirement to get that skill assessment. Doing a skill assessment is really useful even for an employment perspective. Pan will talk more about that in a minute. But basically, if you have a skill assessment, that is authoritative proof to an Australian employer as well that you have the skills at the same level of an Australian employee. Secondly, it is vitally important that you have a skill assessment in order to start any skill migration program. And then the last one is, of course, if you don't have a skill assessment and you apply for a subclass 482, if the case officer is not very convinced with your CV and your skill set, they may request for a skill assessment later, and that will seriously delay your ability to get to get the visa granted. So that is basically the real crux of getting a skill migration or employer-sponsored visa. Before I hand it over to my friend, I need to raise one last thing with you, which is the DAMA program. That's the Designated Area Migration Agreement program. As you can see, all these places I've marked in the map here is actually places where places that are considered designated areas, and the Australian federal government signed migration agreements with these places. If you are living and working in one of these places, or if you intend to relocate to one of these places, the Australian government has significant concessions available when you're applying for the visa. For example, if you're over the age of 45 and you still want PR in Australia, because after 45, you can't get PR in Australia through the skill migration program, at least. You can move to one of these designated areas and negotiate with an employer to get a invitation, employer to get a sponsorship. You could also have English language concessions. So if you can't get at least 5.0 in each band for IELTS, if you're working for an employee in a designated area, then there are concessions available. Lastly, if the employers are unable to pay you $70,000 per annum to do your job, but you're working in a designated area, you may get some concessions when it comes to being able to still get a sponsorship, even without making at least 70,000 per year. So those are the benefits of the DAMA program. So that comes to an end on our presentation today. So what I've basically done as a quick highlight is I've shown you how the skill migration program might be a little hard this year to get permanent residency because the government's cut down on the available places. I've shown you what are the available options when it comes to employer-sponsored PR, and I've told you what are the eligibility requirements. But in order to get an employer-sponsored visa, of course, you need to have an employer. So I invite Pan to take over and walk us through the process of getting an employer so that the wonderful, lovely people could potentially negotiate a sponsorship. Pan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Keith, for that very informative session on especially the current announcements of the visas and the slots. So, and also really going into detail about why employer sponsorship could be the better pathway, especially for migrants, because of key reasons such as they have more control over the process. And I really like the part that where we covered on how you can showcase the benefit of the employer. That's one thing that I can touch on before I go into this part of how to find your potential employers through different tactics. It's something that a lot of international students and migrants struggle, especially around how to showcase what value the employees will get by sponsoring you. So especially around the minimum time commitment that you are giving the employer, such as a minimum 2 years or 4 years, which is quite important for you to set that path to having that conversation. But this session I'll be talking about especially around LinkedIn, and then focusing on why you can use LinkedIn as your tool to find potential employers, especially when the job offers are hidden, and also how you can find employers who are open to giving sponsorships. Not many people know that. So I'm going to cover tactics to how to go into LinkedIn and find these potential employers where you can connect with them to have an opportunities for sponsorship. So before we start, I know we've covered a lot and Keith has given so much of valuable information. I might start with a basic question from all of you. I know that we have quite a good attendance today. How many of you, I want you to just engage through the chat function or just a reaction you might see in your Zoom. There is a small smiley reaction function. You can raise your hand up, just engage. So I would like to know how many of you have a LinkedIn profile? Awesome. I'm getting so many hands right here. It's amazing that you all have a LinkedIn profile. I don't want anyone to tell like, you don't have a LinkedIn profile in this age. So everyone seems to be having a LinkedIn profile, which is awesome. Well done, guys. Keith, next slide, please. Good that you have a LinkedIn profile. Sorry, the one before. Yep. So if you have a LinkedIn profile, I want you to tell me, maybe using the chat, how do you use your LinkedIn profile? I get to talk with a lot of candidates like you, especially migrants in Australia who's looking for their job. Maybe they are in a job, but wanting to find an employer sponsorship to get to the PR pathways. What do you use? How do you use LinkedIn profile for? Well, first option, apply to jobs. Like, you see it as a job board, similar to Seek or Indeed, or wherever you use to apply for jobs. Option 2 is digital copy of your resume. So you copy some data from your resume into LinkedIn, maybe it's a professional summary into your about section, your name. You say a bit of things in your about section, and then you just copy the content into your work experience from the resume. That's second option. And third one, add people to your network. Out of 1, 2, 3, which one do you use it most for? 1, 2, or 3? Before we go into the next slide, I want you guys to just mention what purpose that you'll use LinkedIn profile for. All 3, awesome. Ram is saying they're using for all 3. Chiru, all 3, which is really good. Harsh as well. I'm getting a lot of all 3s, which is awesome, guys. Only 1, that's okay. So it seems like a lot of the attendees here are using LinkedIn to not only apply for jobs, to keep it as a digital copy of your resume, and also connect to people, especially decision makers. Not only could be the employers, but also some other professionals who can give you referrals. Awesome. If you go into next slide. So if you think that you're using fit for all 3, this is a tricky question. I want you to reflect and then answer this question honestly. So what are the content that we will cover on the next slides? You will get really value out of it. So if you're using it for all 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in your LinkedIn profile? 2, potentially get a job. 1 rule, no one, you can't answer 7, because 7 people say, okay, everyone says 7, that's the safest number. How confident are you on your LinkedIn profile? Dan says 5, that's okay. Thank you for that honesty. I'm seeing a lot of 5s and 6, 9, awesome. Kalpa, he's having a 9, which is awesome. So 6. So you're having your confidence level at 6, 5 to 6. I see a lot of 5 and 6s here. So that means if you are a 5 at 6, you should explore ways to get it to an 8 or 9 for you to be able to get more visibility into your LinkedIn profile that is inbound. So you said you're using LinkedIn to apply for jobs, connect with other people, and then use it as a digital resume. That is that you have to make an effort that you're reaching out outbound to other people. But the important thing is LinkedIn works as a search algorithm, right? It's a search engine. So for people to find your profile, you have to have at least your confidence around 8 to 9, so that the LinkedIn algorithm or LinkedIn, when someone searches for candidates like you, let's say a construction company wants to hire a civil engineer and they're willing to offer a sponsorship for the right candidate, right? So if they go into LinkedIn and find with a keyword, say, hey, civil engineer or project management, your profile should come up in their results, so you would get more calls or messages from potential hiring managers and recruiters. That's where you have to aim to, and we will cover few tactics on how to get there. Next slide, please, Keith. So these are some vital, important statistics that you need to be aware of before we go into different options, like different tactics to find your employers. 80% of the jobs are never advertised online. I know that you guys had said that you use it as a portal to applying for jobs, which is great. Like LinkedIn has plenty of job opportunities out there which are advertised. You can easily go in and find what are the jobs. So remember, 80% of the jobs in the market, especially in Australia, are never advertised online. For an example, for me, when I was a job seeker like you as a migrant in Australia, I found my last 2 jobs without applying anywhere. So basically, a hiring manager reached out to me on a day like this. Hey, Pan, we have an IT project manager job. This is not advertised. We don't want to advertise this. So would you mind going for an interview? So that was basically not advertised. So 80% of the jobs are never advertised online. And in terms of number of people, 52 million people use LinkedIn worldwide to search for jobs each week. Did you know that? And 4 out of 5 LinkedIn on people on LinkedIn drive business decision. This is where you have to think of people who can give you a sponsorship, people who are in companies who make that decision of when they hire a person, whether they can allow you a sponsorship to hire you. So business decision makers. This may not be the hiring managers. It could be the CEOs, CTOs, or senior managers who has the authority to give you a sponsorship. So 4 out of 5 people on LinkedIn can drive business decisions. And then the final fact is 44% of hiring managers use LinkedIn skills data to fill job opportunities. So they use LinkedIn. Remember, other job boards such as Seek, Indeed, and other things does not have this feature to compare skills. So hiring managers use LinkedIn skills data to fill jobs. That is quite important to understand on why LinkedIn is such a powerful platform. It's not just as a job board, but as a platform that you can get potential opportunities for jobs and sponsorships. If we can go into the next slide. Optimizing a LinkedIn profile. I'm going to cover key sections of your LinkedIn profile that you might need to be aware of, where you can get to that stage of not only be marketable, so people are willing to offer you jobs with a sponsorship, but also get more on a daily basis. As I said, when I was job hunting, without even applying, I was able to get job offers, interviews from employers who are hiring for my target jobs, right? So profile, picture, and cover banner. Now, as per LinkedIn data, it says you have 21 times more profile views and 9 times more connection requests if you have a high quality profile picture and a custom cover banner. Now, custom cover banner means not something that you find in Google. Anyone can upload it. Custom cover banner is something when I write a LinkedIn profile, is just a banner that is unique to you, that shows your strengths. So if you have a custom banner, when a recruiter or a hiring manager comes to your profile, they see that you're active on LinkedIn, and also it's enhances your personal branding. So they think that by hiring you, they have more chances of converting that interview into a job offer. Target job roles. I talk with a lot of migrants like you, and a lot of people haven't really gone into this target job roles section and then optimize the location. Even if you're applying for a job not in Australia, from Sri Lanka or India or overseas, you can still go into LinkedIn and have 5 job preferences and multiple job locations, right? So LinkedIn, when someone searches for you, if you haven't put your preferred location, you won't be captured into their search results. Simple as that. So let's say if you're currently in India and you are looking for a potential opportunity, or even you're in Australia and you are exploring a job opportunity with a sponsorship in a regional Victorian location, you have to identify and update this location in your LinkedIn profile. So, and then there's a slot of 5 job preferences. So if you're, for an example, looking for a civil engineer or a site engineer job, update all 5 job preferences. Don't just keep it as one. Maximize the job slots so you will get the most benefit of the LinkedIn algorithm. Projects. I know some of you, I mean, most of you here might not have a lot of local experience, right? That's a common barrier that a lot of people get. I don't have local experience. So how you can use your other transferable skills and projects into your LinkedIn so your profile get more hits, right? Projects. If you have done a university project, whether it could be civil engineering, IT, mechanical engineering, I'm sure you have done a capstone project in your last year, right, of the degree. Use LinkedIn project section. I'm not sure whether you know how to add this section. Add the project section and use what you have done as bullet points, not just the name. Write what you have done in your university projects. It could be overseas as well, and with measurable impact. So write bullet points. What are the tasks? What are the tools, software you have used? What are the outcomes you have achieved in this projects section? Headline is quite important. Headline is where people find you. So if you don't have an optimized headline, a lot of people use LinkedIn headline as actively looking for jobs, which is a common mistake. Let's say now we can see close to 50 people attending this webinar. If all of you say that I'm actively looking for jobs under your headline, how can a hiring manager find a your uniqueness just by reading the headline, right? So use your headline to showcase what target jobs that you're using for, your key skills, and then what value. People want to hire, as Keith mentioned earlier, employer wants to see the benefit of hiring you. So tell them in your headline itself. To do that, you can use the 220 character limit, right? I'm not sure how many people are aware of there is a 220 character limit in your LinkedIn headline. So if you're just saying your current job, I think 80-90% of the job seekers say that I'm currently looking for a job, or just say they just have your target role there, or the current company name. Instead of that, use 220 character limit to say, write a compelling headline that employers will see value in your profile. And about section, without just copying, you said initially that you use it as a digital resume, right? So your about section may be your professional summary or part of your professional summary in the resume, right? Yes, that could be a part of it, but do something unique. Tell your story. If you don't have local experience, tell why you like engineering, tell you why you like science, tell you why you like IT, what made you choose this industry, why you are unique in the about section. And then finally, the skills. I have helped more than 200 people, job seekers like you, find jobs in their relevant field. And 99% of candidates that I've worked with before had less than 50 skills used in their profiles. Some people have used 50, but they were not targeted. So remember, if you haven't used the total 50 skill slots in your LinkedIn profile, go and try to update 50, but make sure that they are relevant to your target job. So you will get more targeted messages, right? I'm sure you might get some messages here and there from recruiters, but they might be not relevant for what you're looking for. That means that your profile is not optimized correctly. So skill section is a great way to really optimize your profile and get more inbound messages from your hiring managers. So those are the key sections of LinkedIn profiles, and really you have to target to have a high quality profile, not only to reach out to hiring managers, but to get more inbound messages. Now I'm going to cover the most important part here. I'm going to cover 3 ways, tactics that I've spent thousands of hours learning over the last few years. As a job seeker migrant myself, finding pathways to find sponsorships and job opportunities over LinkedIn. And these are not traditional. So remember, if you're thinking that this is the standard LinkedIn profile that I'm going to talk in these next few slides, no, these are really advanced tactics that I'm sharing here just for you, and then that you can use right away to find people for companies that who are willing to hire you. As Keith said, it's not about just understanding that employer-sponsored visa are the pathway, the easiest way that you have more control over to make your PR process easier, but understanding who are the employers, right? How do you know which employers are willing to offer, or maybe the employers who have done it in the past, employers who are currently having active job offers right there in LinkedIn that has an option or opportunities for a visa sponsorship. Do you know how to search it? I'm going to share it now. If I can just share the screen now, Keith, just
you have permission. You can proceed.
Thanks. So I'm going to share, I hope this will add value to you. So I'm going to share a live demo with you. As you can see on the screen, the tactic one, right? LinkedIn Insider Tactics to find companies and sponsorship opportunities. Tactic one is search with the term sponsorship in the LinkedIn search bar. So I'm going to search, share my screen right now. Can you all see the screen, LinkedIn, where I have keyed in the sponsorship as a keyword?
Yeah, Pan, I can see it.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for the acknowledgement. So as you can see, now LinkedIn has an advanced search option where you can find ways to not only find hiring managers, but employers, job offers, job opportunities, which has relevant terms. So first tactic I'm going to show you, you go into LinkedIn, search sponsorship in the keywords field, and then what you have to do is to go into all filters. Now, this is quite a hidden function. Not many job seekers, migrants, international students I have worked with have used this. I'm seeing raising of hands. Please keep your questions. We have a Q&A session in the end. So in fairness to the other candidates, we will answer your questions in the end. If you have any questions, please note it down so we can answer it in the end of the session. So use the all filters section, search by the sponsorship, and then you can go in and then to this industry. So if you are an engineer, civil engineer, for an example, you search, you can add an industry if it is not in this field. You search for civil engineering and they click show results. So all the jobs results that you will get here might have a keyword that has the word sponsorship. This doesn't mean that all these jobs will offer, just to keep in mind, all these jobs will offer visa sponsorship, but out of the millions of jobs that LinkedIn has, you're filtering out the job offers in Australia, which has the keyword sponsorship. So for an example, I will go in and then let's say, we will check this site, project and senior engineers, right? So this is a construction company in Brisbane. If you scroll down, they're saying site, project and senior project engineers required. Awesome. So there's multiple offers. There's multiple projects coming in Brisbane. And then if you scroll down a bit, there you go. So under the essential skills, they say you need Australian residency or valid work visa and sponsorship for the right candidate, right? Now, this is a company, they're openly advertising that for the right candidate, they're offering a sponsorship, right? And then even here, you have direct access to the person who's hiring for this role, right? If you apply on Seek, just imagine, if you apply on Seek blindly without knowing that whether they allow sponsorships or not, you wouldn't know. You have to wait until you get to the interview stage. But here, you're not only saving your time, but you're understanding who's the hiring manager, who's the company. Even if you don't get this opportunity, you can make a connection with this person to see the potential future opportunities, right? This is your best way to find companies who are giving sponsorships. If they are opening up sponsorships to here, I'm sure there'll be many opportunities. So that's tactic one. Second option, a lot of you will search for jobs by the job title, right? You might say, okay, if you're an IT engineer, you go to LinkedIn, say IT engineer, search for jobs. Civil engineer, search for jobs and then see what jobs come up. Instead of jobs, you search first using your target field. You change this filter to posts. Let me show you. So I'm changing my search option to posts. Now, this is again a highly effective tactic to get to the hiring manager first. Remember, recruiting, hiring is a very busy market. If you wait for a job that is advertised 2-3 days ago, you might be falling behind. It might be too late, right? So if you filter it by post, you might see, you get this option to sort by the latest. So you search civil engineer, post, and latest. You will see all the recent posts that you have civil engineer as a title. Now, this might filter out other countries, but what you will see here, like some posts are even posted 1 minute ago, right? This is how you can get to there fast. Speed is a game changer in job search, right? You might be competing with hundreds of other candidates. If you wait, because your job search can influence on the timing, right? You know, if you're too late, if the hiring manager have got more than 10-15 candidates, and if you're applying after that, you might lose the race. So get there first. How to get there first? Understand, because a lot of the time hiring managers, recruiters post it sometimes before even advertising the job in any other job site, right? They just quickly put a post to see if there's anyone in the network who's interested to work with you. So search through the post and then filter it by the latest. Third tactic is, now Keith talked about some areas, right? A specific area that there's more opportunities for you, regional locations, specific areas, depends on the industry where you can get more chances of getting sponsorship. It could be based on the demand, based on the industry market data, employment levels. So how do you filter by a company? So here you search. Again, you can search by the target job role, civil engineer, and then you can really go into this location filter. For an example, now I am searching for all the jobs that are available. Now I'm not filtering by a job title. Instead, I'm just blindly searching. I'll show you again. I'm blindly searching. I'll go to search. I click enter. I don't put anything there. You click jobs. And then you search by a location. If you understand, you might have a bit of an understanding which regional areas you can target, which regional areas that you have more opportunities to get a sponsorship. So here, instead of Australia, I would say Bendigo in Victoria. So I'll see all the jobs that have been posted in this region, which gives you a head start to understand what type of jobs that they have opened in this region, right? Now, that's one another tactic which is really important for you to get there first, and then understand what type of job opportunities available in different regions. Research is key, as I said, but using these techniques not only will help you to understand a bit about how the market works, how the market is moving, but also get your profile, get your message across faster to the decision makers, as I said. So those are the three techniques which are quite effective in finding your jobs in a very busy market. So we talked about searching by the three tactics insider tactics to find companies and sponsorship opportunities on LinkedIn. And then you can go one step further, right? So not only you can find people, as I said, if you find the contact person, a hiring manager who's opening this role, right? If you find a job, then what to do next? Just apply for the job or find a different way. A lot of people, 90% of the migrants, international graduates, when they see a job, what they do, I know that you're not that confident into reaching out directly, but you get what like, most other people don't get by doing things that most people don't do. So if you can send them a personalized LinkedIn message by identifying a common connection, right? Identify a common connection, express genuine interest, highlight, like, do a bit of a research of the company, share how common your values or goals are with the job description or the company, relevant experience, and maybe ask a thoughtful question. There are different ways, tactics to reach out to the person, but if you have access to these hiring managers on LinkedIn, you will get more opportunities by reaching out to them directly than just applying on a job board like Seek or even LinkedIn. So always do that. Next slide, please. So reflection time before we go into the final stages of our sessions, which is an exclusive opportunity to get these information and then help to land your dream jobs plus a sponsorship. Question now, based on information about what we covered, how confident are you to reach out to employers on LinkedIn? Now, just maybe similar to what you did, how confident are you to reach out to employees on LinkedIn? On a scale of 1 to 10, you cannot say 7. 9, Chiru, awesome. So you are reaching out. Ram says 8. Dan says 6. Good, and thanks for the honesty. So people are, I guess that you are reaching out to employers. Harsha says 6, which is great. Reaching out to employers on LinkedIn is really important, but remember that the way, the tactics, how you reach out is quite important, what you say. Nishad says 6 as well. Thanks for that, Nishad. Sharin says 5. It's okay. I understand that not everyone is confident to reaching out to a stranger, especially when you are starting out. And how knowledgeable, the second question is how knowledgeable you are in finding the right skilled visa and PR pathway. Now, he gave an amazing overview and information going into really good details on why it's important to find the right skilled visa based on the current industry demands and policies and your PR pathway. How knowledgeable do you think in finding the right skilled visa and PR pathway? You can rate 1 to 10. Trust me, guys, this is the last question that I'm asked before we go into the most important part. A lot of 6s. Good, because you all are here to learn. Remember, guys, like, I mean, this is a learning journey, right? You're here, you're spending your time in a 1-hour webinar here. So, I mean, you have to be honest, like, where you need to improve, like, you understand where the market works, how to find employers, understand where your strengths and weaknesses are, and then only you can go into going into a path of improving your job search, finding employers and potential sponsorships, which can fast track your PR pathway. Awesome. Now, next slide. This is the exclusive offer we are going to talk about, that where we can help you to land your dream job. Not only a dream job, coaching to get into a job in your field, plus with a potential sponsorship. I'm not only going to cover these 3 tactics. The 3 tactics that I've shared is only a handful of tactics that I will be covering. So as part of my Elevar 8-week migrant job search group coaching program, these are the things that you will get if you get to work with me. Now, this might include 2 one-on-one coaching calls with me. The normal value, as you would see, is 400 AUD. Your resume optimized, cover letter rewritten, LinkedIn. Like, it's not only your LinkedIn profile would be completely rewritten, like, your profile, banner, about section, everything. So people will come into your profile more often with potential sponsorship sometimes. Job offers that you can get more rather than just applying on job boards for hundreds of job offers, not getting responses, right? 8 group coaching sessions, 1 60-minute interview coaching. You get a job offer, there is a potential opportunity, but what if you can't convert these job offers into interviews into a job offer, right? You don't want to miss interviews or messages from recruiters, right? You want to be coached on how to have this difficult conversation. So 60-minute interview coaching session with me. And then plus, you said, a lot of you said you're not confident of reaching out to, you said a lot of 6s, right? Some of you have said 9, which is great, but you don't know how to reach out. If someone doesn't reply to you, what do you say? You go to an interview, you don't get a response. How do you even follow up? If someone shows an interest in you, right? You see a potential job opportunity, but how do you reach out to them? What to say, right? This constant fear of not getting a feedback, is holding you back. So I'm giving you 20 proven email, LinkedIn, and job hunting templates, and then access to my private community group. The total value of this whole program is $2,263. But the thing is, you're unlucky. I'm not going to charge this much for that. Let's go into the next slide. I'm not going to charge you for that. Exclusively for today, all of that, like this program is not even launched to the public yet. I am working with a very limited number of candidates right now on a pilot basis. So you might get to work with me one-on-one, which is not common. So a discounted price when it's launched in a couple of months will be $1,400. And the good thing is, for today only, this is a real deal, everyone. For today only, this will be only valid for 24 hours. For all of you who have joined today, I'm giving it out for $800 for the whole 8-week experience, where I guarantee you an interview. And if you don't get an interview within these 8 weeks, I will coach you in the same capacity with no extra cost. If you can also pay this on a weekly basis, that is $100. So this is the offer. If you don't think that this is value adding for you to get a job with a sponsorship in your field, you can think about it. This is the offer that is only valid for today, and I will hand over to my friend Keith for his offer.
Wonderful summary, Pan, and a wonderful explanation of that entire search cycle. I wish I knew this when I was a migrant in university back in the day. So many interesting things you can do in LinkedIn. Even now, as I've become a professional and run my own practice, LinkedIn still continues to add value. I'm not looking for a job anymore, but still I find lots of connections in LinkedIn and lots of value add to my business. So I no doubt all our participants really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for taking the time, Pan. I think the program and the discount that you have offered for the participants here is fantastic value. I encourage all of you to think about it. Check Elevar out. Pan has a fantastic TikTok. You can really follow him and understand the value that he'll add to you. I was discussing with Pan, and I thought at MJ Legal also we would like to showcase some of our services and show you how we can add value to you. So typically, as lawyers, what we do at MJ Legal is we help applicants, or we help individuals who are looking for permanent residency achieve that goal. We do eligibility assessments where applicants will provide us detailed CVs or detailed outlines of their backgrounds and experiences. We do initial consultations primarily through Zoom, or if you want to come to the Melbourne or Sri Lankan office, you're open to do that as well. We consult you, we give you strategies, and then we also help you with applications. So our pricing usually, we charge around $100 to $200 for skill assessments and consultations. We do eligibility assessments and consultations, I should say. We charge about $800 for skill assessments, and an employer-sponsored visa, the whole pathway, we charge about $5,000. Remember, it's a 3-step program, so the employer needs to have a standard business sponsorship application. There's a nomination application to be made and a visa application to be made. It's a very robust and very extensive application, and we do skill migration pathways for about $3,000 as well. However, there's an exclusive offer similar to Pan. It expires 24 hours from today. If you want to send us in your CVs, we're happy to do an eligibility assessment for absolutely no cost, where we will check your entire background, see which occupations on the skilled occupation list you would be qualifying under, and if you are eligible and if you are qualifying, we'll reach out to you and we'll let you know that you have qualified. And then we're happy to do a discounted consultation for you based on what we've outlined here. So we're happy to do a initial consultation with me for $50. We're happy to do your skill assessments fee for $500 if you are eligible for it now, and we're happy to give you 20% off on any of our visa pathways that we've outlined as well. So those are the offers that we have on for you today. Were there any questions? All right, let's look at the chat. So Pumi Hansika has asked, in subclass 482, for 2 years experience, does it have to be obtained with a specific period? For example, should it be an experience obtained within 2 years just before applying for the visa, or any experience up to 10 years? Any experience up to 10 years is valid. That's not a problem at all. So yes, you can. Basit says he can't find exactly the job he's doing on the occupation list. What can he do? So if you can't find the job that you are exactly doing currently on the skilled occupation list, there may be lots of adjacent jobs on the skilled occupation list. So for example, if you are working in a if you're working in the capacity of a, let's say you're working in the capacity of a technician, but you have an engineering background, then you could potentially look at selecting the occupation engineering technologist. So there are lots of ways for you to actually look at the current job you're doing. And if you can't find the exact occupation on the skilled occupation list, you can then definitely find alternative occupation on the list, because there are hundreds of them. But if you want, you can reach out to us and we can go through a consultation and we can guide you on obtaining or picking the exact occupation you like. How can I get a consultation? You can definitely have a consultation with us. As I said, we've got a 24-hour offer on. So if you want to send Sasika, if you want to send us your CV within the next 24 hours, we'll check everything for you, and we're happy to offer you a consultation just for $50 with us. There are more questions. Keep it coming, guys. Shireen says she's offshore, not sure if qualifications from countries equivalent to AQF. If your qualification is similar to AQF or not is quite a complicated question, Shireen. What I would recommend you do is to find the occupation that you are specifically looking at getting a skill assessment from, and then what you would do is look at the skill assessing body and see whether they what their requirements are, and then we would need to you would need to assess and see whether you meet the skill assessing body's requirements. So an example would be Engineers Australia. They have all of their qualifications are accredited under the Washington Accord, but occupations that are not under the Washington Accord would then be considered not meeting the standards of an Australian AQF level degree holder, and then you have to do the competency demonstration pathway. So that's quite a complicated question, Shireen, but yeah, how I would approach it is I would look at the skill assessing body's requirements and see whether you actually meet that requirement. I hope that answers your question. Kalpa says, yes, Pan, this is a ringing endorsement for you, mate. Kalpa says that he would like to thank you for helping him get his current job. And he had, even with 6 years of previous IT experience, he struggled to get a cybersecurity job for about 8 months. And Kalpa really, and Pan had really helped him get two job offers within a few days. So thank you very much for the feedback, Kalpa, and Pan. Fantastic work, mate.
Thank you so much, Kalpa. That's very kind of you. I know that you're one of the best clients that I've worked with. I mean, as we discussed, like, you know, all of you who are in here might have already had the skills, but remember what is important is the right strategy. If you apply the right strategy and then optimize with these tactics, there's so many opportunities out there for you to get to where you want. I mean, think of whether you want to do the same thing over and over again with no result, or just understand what you can do differently than others. So, but thanks again, Kalpa, so much for that kind words.
Fantastic. Dan, our contact details are listed on this slide, so that's fantastic. Please note them down. You can contact us at admin@MJ Legal, and you can all contact Pan at hello@elevardigital.com. More questions coming in. Very good. There is a question that says, if you've applied for a visa and got rejected, how do you bounce back? Very, very complicated situation. If you've had a visa rejection, it all depends on whether you're onshore or offshore. If you're already in Australia and you've had a visa rejection, then there are only very limited visas you're allowed to apply for in Australia. So, for example, if you have a previous visa refusal and you're at the Administrative Appeals Tribunal on appeal, then you can apply for all the skilled migration visas. That's the 189, 190, and 491. But you can't apply for some of the employer-sponsored visas. Those are having a Section 48 bar. Which is Section 48 of the Migration Act, which limits you from making some applications onshore. If you are offshore and you've been rejected, no problem, you can apply again. However, it really depends on why you were rejected. If you were rejected because you overclaimed some points, or you made an application that didn't demonstrate your genuine temporary entrance, there is no time limit. You can apply again. However, if you did if you did get rejected because the department had some concerns with the genuineness of your documentation, then you would really need to look at it. But yeah, definitely, please send us an email at admin@mjlegal with why you were rejected and what your background is and where you currently are, and we'd be happy to have a look at it and help guide you through. Pan Shireen says, thank you very much, and she really enjoyed your tactics. I did too, Pan, so that's fantastic. There's another question about best pathways for a chef. I think the best pathway for a chef at the moment is an employer-sponsored pathway. So because the state nominations are very limited, and also if you're on a 485 as a chef, you probably don't have a lot of visa left. So you would definitely need to, want to kind of push your employer, or try to find an employer who's willing to sponsor you. Lots of if you're in a trades occupation, it's quite easy to get sponsored, guys, because you have a direct contact with the business owner often if you're working at a pub or somewhere. So I would highly recommend having a chat and seeing whether you can get sponsored. Another question here is, what's the normal processing time, and while waiting for it, what do you do? Okay, so the question that we have from Pumi is, what is the normal visa processing time, and while waiting for the subclass 482, if the current visa is expiring, what do we do? So Pumi, if you've already applied for a subclass 482 visa, you will get a bridging visa, and so you can just wait on the bridging visa if your current visa is expiring. However, if you have not made a 482 application yet, and you're currently on a 485 or any other kind of temporary residency visa, then you would definitely need to consider further options. But if you've already applied for a 482, 100%, you will get a bridging visa. So that's not a problem. There's a very good question here which says, what happens if I get invited for skill migration after I've applied for a 482? So that's for candidates who found an employer who sponsored them, and then they've expressed an interest for skill migration and get invited. Very lucky if you're in that position, guys. No problem. You can definitely go ahead and make the application for skill migration as well. Your 482 will usually be valid anywhere between 2 to 4 years. So you can definitely make that application, and you will get your skill migration visa. If my employer is not profitable, can they still sponsor? My company was founded a few years back and they are predicting profits. 100% Vikum, that's not a problem. You can definitely get sponsored, particularly if it's a startup high growth business that is well funded, or if it's pre-revenue, but they still have a good business plan and good funding. Yes, I've helped countless companies like that. So what you would want to do is you'd want to create a very good business plan with a strong cash flow projection to show that your employer will reach profitability in 2025. They just need to prove to the department that they can afford to pay your salary. So that's the only thing that you need to convince the department of. But happy to take you through the process in detail and even consult with your employer if needed. But yes, the short answer is, if they're not profitable, can they sponsor you? If they can afford to pay your wages, they can sponsor you. Jaru, what happens if you already are employed under 482 in a particular state, but eventually get your PR in another state? Not a problem if you are employed. 482 visas don't have any restrictions on where you live. You just need to be able to access your employer on a regular basis. But if you're sponsored, let's say, for example, you're working on a 482 in South Australia, but you get invited to apply for PR from Western Australia, you can go ahead. That's not a problem at all. Thank you very much, Tishara. This is very, very useful. So yes, Vikum, you can go ahead. Any questions, guys? Further questions? We're happy to hang around for a few more minutes. What's the best visa for a freight forwarder? And freight forwarders are not on the list. What you would want to do, Dilshan, is you would want to you are definitely, what you'd want to do, Dilshan, is you'd want to look at what you do in the freight forwarding company, whether you're in the logistics side of things or whether you're in the handling side of things, and you'd want to see whether there is an occupation that is particularly available for you, depending on what you do for the freight forwarding. Thank you, Sherin. Really appreciate your words there. I think that is probably all that we have here. Anything to add, Pan? Any parting words?
No, I think people were so engaged, asking a lot of questions, and I'm being overwhelmed by, like, a lot of the responses. So we are so glad that we were able to add value to you, and then cover a lot of bit of information within this session. And also really excited about all of your excitement, asking insightful questions. This is what we only need. Like, even if you go away with these tactics and information, this might help you to get to where you want. So that's what I have to add, and I'm quite happy with how people have responded. Some of the people, like, thanks for that, Keith. A lot of the people are asking how to get contacted if they are keen to work with us. So this is the screen, everyone. So the email and then the mobile, like the phone numbers, if you are keen to contact with either Angelica, Keith, or myself with Elevar. That's I think all I want to add, in case unless there's any other questions.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you so much. Please do reach out to us. We are more than happy to help each one of you. Myself and Pan have gone through the migration journey ourselves, so we really understand the position that you guys are in. So that's actually, before you guys go, there's a good question for Pan. What's the best opening message to a recruiter, Pan? Anything to any final?
That's a good question, Nahalia. Final like a tip for reaching out to recruiters. Recruiters are so quite busy people, as you know. They spend 6 to 10 seconds, they say, when reviewing a resume before making a decision. So they get not 10-15 messages, hundreds of messages sometimes, depending on the company, by people who are looking for jobs. So you have to do something that is unique, right? That can grab the attention. So one way that you can do is, if you don't have the LinkedIn recruiter, not LinkedIn Premium, right, where you can email a recruiter, that might help you to reach out to them with a more informative message than the standard message. Standard message only gets you limited number of characters. If you are using still the LinkedIn free option, try to reach out to them with a very specific message. Go and research what recruiter's profile is about, what they have posted, right? Don't just say, I just saw this job and then I'm applying for it. Just saw what they have posted on their profile and then make a comment, or say that what you're doing in this field was quite helpful for us. I found your post, which you posted last week, was quite informative, and then say, by the way, how about I came across this job role, which quite aligned with my fit because of, mention 1 or 2 key values or your skills that align with the job. So always start with a personalized message and then say why you align with the job, and then maybe ask finally whether they're open for a quick chat or a quick phone call. That is following them in a general way, but if you have a LinkedIn premium account, you can add more to the message into your content, saying why you are really reaching out to them. So you have to grab the attention, make them, feel valued, and then you will get more responses.
Thank you, Pan. That was fantastic. I think I'm going to close the webinar with that. Please follow us on both myself and Pan are quite active on TikTok. So follow us, and we'll definitely have more to offer you guys in the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
We
everyone.
enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.